Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com or look for us on Facebook at Voices from the Bench. Greetings and welcome to Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis Dahl.
Hi guys, I'm Barbara Wojan and we are at episode 37. That's a lot of episodes that I've been recording with my good friend Elvis.
Yeah.
We still like each other.
We will be surprised every episode that we're able to record. I don't think there'll ever be a time where we're sad to reach a new number. So
I think that you could probably say that this is the most I have ever committed my time, 37 episodes. So you should be proud and impressed. Maybe not everybody, but you should, Elvis. So
don't give up now. Don't give up now.
Well, not.
So it's an exciting time of the year. I don't know if anyone noticed, but registration for one of my favorite meetings opened up last week, LMT Lab Day Chicago. So if you haven't already signed up, make sure you head over to lmtmag.com and sign up.
And we're going to be there.
And we will be there.
And everybody and their mother's going to be there.
Everybody's there. But Barb and I are going to have a big booth down on the exhibit hall. So make sure if you do come to LMT Lab Day in Chicago that you stop by, you find us, sit down and have a chat with us, and you'll be on the podcast.
Which, if you're listening to us, you actually like podcasts. And if you like podcasts, that should be a fun opportunity for you. We'll see how we do live.
That will be interesting.
Elvis does a fair amount of editing, so we'll see how that goes.
So, yeah, if you get a chance and you're coming to LMT Lab Day in Chicago, which is in February, make sure you come by and see us.
We'll have Fireball or not. I'll have Fireball. I don't think Elvis will, but or not. Like I said, I'm just kidding. I don't drink at meetings.
Is it juice? Is it not juice? Is it water? Is it not water? Who knows?
No, I don't drink at meetings, especially during the day. See for yourself, though. Come by. Mm-hmm.
Give her the test. Make her walk in a straight line. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's right. Or join me.
Or join her. Even better. So this week we are continuing our conversation with Bennett Napier and Bob Savage. This week we get into how a lab can participate in the NADL, and for those who are interested, how you get on the board. We also touch on one of the highlights of my career, which is when I attended the NADL University. And of course, the upcoming Visions 21 meeting. You know, Barb and I, we have not mentioned Visions on the podcast yet, so maybe it's a good time to do it.
Seriously? I think we've mentioned it like 10 times, but we haven't mentioned it recently. So
that's true. It's probably been a whole week. So let's make sure that we mention Vision 21 meeting. But Bennett and Bob talk about how great that meeting is and actually how it started, which is interesting. So let's continue with the executive director and current president of the NADL, Bennett and Bob. Voices from the Bench. The interview.
Hearing and listening to everybody's needs, because everybody, based on business models, size of business, how long they've been in the business, everybody has unique needs based on the cycle of where they are, and can't be all things to all people, but we definitely try to make sure that we are providing universal things that benefit the majority of people.
Yeah, and I'd definitely like to follow up to your point that, we do try to, attract and go out to and speak to the smaller laboratories or less than 10 people. That's always a topic of conversation on our meetings is how do we benefit them? How do we market to them to get more people involved, not only on the boards, but just industry-wide. I know that it's been said sometimes that NADL is only a large laboratory, but I know from my perspective, or not a large laboratory, but only speaks to, and the boards are, from bigger laboratories. And I don't believe that to be true. And I know personally that we are, doing some initiatives, especially coming up next year, to attract and give more benefits to the smaller labs. So I'd like to make that point very loudly and very clearly. So thank you.
And if I can just kind of build on that too, and as you talk about the service side of what NADL provides to its membership is great. But I think the thing, especially even for me and for us here at Drake, the ability to network with other laboratory professionals, whether on the business side or the technical side, in my opinion, is immeasurable, because that's where, for me personally, even the ROI is, where I can talk to other lab owners about trends within the business or technology that we're contemplating adding, or contemplating taking away. Getting others' opinions, I don't think you can almost put an ROI on that. And the membership alone, that check that you write, our ability to build those connections and build those friendships and build those colleague relationships, you can't put a price tag on. And whether you take advantage of the services that with those other allied partners that Bennett and his staff work really hard to put together, the thing that really drives home for me within NADL is my ability to just reach out to colleagues from around the country that are members of NADL and have great conversations with them about how we continue to move the needle forward.
Yeah,
I agree. That's one of the biggest benefits I see out of not only being on the board, but just being part of the group.
Yeah.
I've made some great connections and I've utilized those resources because this industry has this amazing ability to, even though we're competitive, we teach each other and we help each other. That's one of the greatest things about it.
Yeah. I can say from, coming from a construction background that was very private bid and those types of things, construction companies do not share information at all. And it took me a while when I joined this company. I'd look at Billy like, are you really telling that person that? And as I got to kind of grow and then learn, you really figure out that this community is really like no other that I've been around. And the ability for colleagues and competitors to just collaborate in some regard to really make each other's businesses better. It's unlike anything I've ever seen.
yeah.
I mean, Barb and Elvis, both of you are NADLU graduates, and, Bob has definitely sent a number of his staff over the years to NADL University. That's a good example. In a broader sense, NADL brings people together, but NADLU, which is a 3-day business management course, is almost a kind of a microcosm of that outreach, in the sense that a lot of the labs that go, although it's a diverse audience each year, small, medium, and large, but you bring 25 people together. That in and of itself is even more of a close-knit peer group, just because they spend 3 days together and really get to know each other. And then I know a lot of those laboratories that have gone through the program over the years as alumni, those become really lifelong friends, just not only on the friend side, but just, as Bob pointed out, just that ability to pick up a lab in Florida, call somebody in California they're not really competing on a day-to-day standpoint probably, but they can really bounce ideas off each other and help each other through the good times and the bad times.
Yeah, I did attend NADLU, and there's people that I see at meetings, and I'm just like giving big hugs, and you really bond. 3 days with anybody, you really bond, and I agree. I ask them questions still, and that was probably 8 years ago. And it's pretty awesome.
When I did that group, I think we had the best class ever. And those people still today I contact on a regular basis, and we're still friends, and I still speak with them and ask them for advice, and they do the same of me. And it's huge. I think it's huge with our industry. But the NADLU, it happens every fall. Like, it just happened, didn't it? Just a couple of weeks ago?
Yes. Yeah. We just had a couple of weeks ago. We limit it to 25 people a year, really just because it allows very strong interaction and building camaraderie. Once you get past 25 to 30 people, then you kind of lose that personal touch piece of it.
Yeah.
And you really want to build up a peer-to-peer sharing network. And that's what it's for. They come and learn on site, but then it's what they do going home that really matters. And so that's been a good program. We've getting close to 400 graduates now since the program launched.
Wow.
Since the foundation came into existence 10 years ago, we've got, both through the foundation itself, through the Fulcrum grant, a number of people who've gone through it have used the Fulcrum grant to pay for their tuition. And then Colzer, has the last several years has granted 2 NADLU scholarships specifically for people who want to go through it. So it's a great thing. And our faculty, really haven't had a lot of change with the faculty, except for a couple of instances, unfortunately, one of which passed away, being Mark Jackson, who was a phenomenal faculty member for us a long time. But the faculty really hasn't changed. So they kind of over the years have really sat in each other's courses. They know how to blend the topics together, so everything kind of blends nicely. All those puzzle pieces that made it, make laboratory management work. So that's again been another really good high quality outcome for us is the faculty, and it's given them their time and knowledge, over the years, and that's it's been a good thing.
Yeah, as someone who took the course, I recommend to anybody looking to get into a little bit more business management. It was very beneficial, and I learned a lot. And it's at one of the best hotels I've ever been to, which is always talked about how great it is.
Yeah, I know on some of your podcasts, you've talked about who's coming into the profession and, are we aging out and who's going to come behind this generation of technicians. But NADLU is a good example. We've got a lot of younger folks going through it, a lot of second, third generation technicians that are taking over family businesses. And so that proves the point. And even Vision 21, for that matter, our demographics in the audience, definitely a lot of 35 and under percentage wise that we're seeing in the room now. And so it gives us that light that, there's another generation that's going to take over and they're going to do just fine. And Elvis, you're one of those under 40 people. So,
barely.
I think we're in good shape.
So do you do like a call to action at the NADLU or any of these areas that you're at to get on the board and to apply for the board and let them know that we're looking for new and fresh blood? How do we go about getting the younger generation and more applicants to join the board?
Yeah, I think to Bob's point, I mean, that personal relationship makes the world of difference. So it's kind of, it's you can do it, just through email or by phone, but when you've met somebody in person at a meeting and you've got that personal connection, that really helps to seal those kind of conversations. So at every juncture when we can, NADLU or any outreach that we do, especially at state meetings, working trade shows, and you kind of see who are the up and comers working at the state level or regional level and diamonds in the rough, if you will, and say, hey, you've got some skills here, you've got some talents here, we could use you at the national level, and you really just kind of start that seed. And a lot of it doesn't have to come from a state association because obviously we don't have that many left in the market, unfortunately, but it definitely helps them understanding kind of what's the role of a board member or committee volunteer. And a lot of people I'll be frank, we are intimidated, say, hey, I'm not sure I'd be really good at the NADL level, at the national level, but at the end of the day, if you got passion, that's what you need. And, everybody's got skills and talents that they can bring to the table. And as all of you have seen, there's no pretense, at the board level in terms of it's a very open culture. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of hierarchy, if you will. So I think once we have the ability to have personal conversations with people about, removing their kind of what their potential fears might be, then it's a pretty easy conversation to say, get on board. And most of them do. And a lot of it just comes down to, like Bob said, a lot of people, you just got to ask, and that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think encouraging people to reach out to a board member, because there's different task force that get formed and committees that get formed looking at different issues on the national level, and that's a great way to just dip your foot in and take a look at what the board does, what NADL does from an up close and personal perspective. So you can understand that. So, although they don't form all the time, I mean, that's the point for them to kind of in and out and do the work that they do. But knowing people that are interested and say, hey, if you've got something along this area, I'd love to be involved. Just knowing names or introducing yourself from that standpoint is a great way. You don't have to all of a sudden be a board member. I think there's other opportunities for an individual to get to know the NADL board and the NADL board to get to know those individuals. So I think that's an important part or an important note, because it's not all in or nothing. There's different ways for people to become involved.
That's how I got involved. I was on the public awareness, and after some emails with everybody and a few phone conferences and seeing what sort of difference and changes got made, it really got me interested to sit on the actual board, and
absolutely.
That's how I got into it through a committee.
Yep, same here.
We were fools. No. So, Bob, you're wrapping up your year of presidency. I mean, sorry the podcast wasn't around to catch you at the beginning.
Okay.
But, you've set the bar for every president I'm going to witness after you because you were the first for me. So good luck to everyone after.
Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Bob, you were his first.
Yes.
It's good to know. It's good to know.
So this last year, what are some big things that you were able to accomplish or help accomplish being president? This is my first year, so a lot of it was FDA regulations and educational things.
Yeah.
What are you the most proud of this presidential year?
I think as you look at this board and subsequent boards and boards to the future, I mean, the one interesting thing about NADL is a lot of these projects and a lot of these things go over multiple years. So multiple boards and things and new people rolling on and those types of things. And, as you already alluded to, I think a big talking point or a big issue within the industry this past year is the FDA scrutiny or increased activity within our space. And, NADL worked really hard at trying to meet that head on and continue to do that. And, it's one of those topics that are tough when you start getting into what I'll call federal politics and federal agencies and those types of things. And navigating those waters takes expertise, and Bennett's team does an amazing job and has an amazing skill set for moving through those types of things. So for me, getting that started or not started or continuing that work, I think has been very, very important because I think it will make a difference in the long term of our industry because we need a voice at that table and be able to have good moving discussions with any regulatory body for that matter, whether it's FDA, whether it's OSHA or whatever may come down the pike later. So setting that groundwork, I think, is most important. And then just carrying on the work of the presidents and the boards before me. I mean, we've already talked about it, that, the boards really work together to move these issues forward, whatever they may be. NBC on the education and the recertification process, although, that board certainly does the heavy lifting. The rest of the boards, the foundation and NADL board, pushes those agendas forward as well. So I'm proud of everything this board has accomplished because they continue to bring ideas to the table, whether it's with allied organizations moving forward to collaborate with them. So it's an ongoing effort, and I'm proud of everything that we've done so far. And I look forward to seeing what the next board does and the next president, Travis, as he comes in, continues that work. It's definitely a process, and it's not hey, we just did this year and we're done. Let's start a new thing.
I would agree, and I think you've done a great job, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us, especially with the FDA. They come knocking on many doors. I know they came to your laboratory and you had like a 5-day audit, and we've been called here at Night Dental a couple times in the past couple months. So I can only assume, that they're going to be knocking on our doors. So that's an extremely important endeavor that we're going to be working on the next, 2 to 5 years on how to protect ourselves and the laws and how they're changing and what we need to do, and then get the message out to what we do need to do, to make sure that we comply.
Yeah, because you need a seat at those tables, and you need to be involved, because if you're not, then you get what somebody else wants to give you without any input. And so I think it's important to build those connections on every level we possibly can, whether it's local, state, federal, to make sure that our voice is heard. And Bennett talked about it earlier, and we talked about it with membership. As a small laboratory, as a large laboratory, just as a business in general, having a trade association like the NADL and you being a part of it helps you ultimately, whether you see the direct ROI that I've saved my check that I wrote in a UPS deal, the connections you make and the bridges that you build with all these different organizations is the big ROI. And sometimes it's not always measurable to say, hey, it's a dollar for dollar thing. But I can assure you from my experience with just being an NADL member to being on the board to now being president, we've actually gotten way more out of the NADL than we have written a check for our membership. And that's the big point for me.
Agreed. So how much does it cost to join the NADL? Do we even want to talk about that, or?
Sure. I mean, as I shared, we've got a membership task force, and we have membership task forces periodically, but we'll probably see some changes going into 19, but I would say this, historically, the association dues are fairly low compared to a lot of other national trade associations. So we've got effectively right now 2 tiers of membership, $350 a year for a 1 to 6 person operation, and then $395 for over 6 employees. And we'll maybe see some modifications to that in 19, but still probably be a pretty sweet deal, if you will, from a comparative standpoint. Most other national trade associations we just shared with our task force, just so they can have perspective on it, because we do collect a lot of market research about, like I said, organizational and association management in general, just to see what the trends are and see if we're on the right side or the wrong side of those trends. And membership dues is an area we look at. So most national trade associations, Bob's incoming chair of another one, the average is probably around $1,000. So we're pretty inexpensive investment, if you will, in your business from that standpoint.
Yeah, that is pretty low. So let's touch upon Visions 21. That's the big meeting out in Las Vegas in January. What exactly is Visions 21?
When or what? Is that, or both?
Both. Yeah. What is it?
January 16th through the 19th is the date next year at Bally's at Las Vegas. So it's like what I call Old Home Week, because that's where Vision 21, when Barb and her dad, Bob Warner and Billy Drake, Bob's father-in-law, were 2 of the key leaders that got Vision 21 started, and
Really?
in the mid 1990s. And basically they had other business management offerings when NADL was conducting through Peter Stein, and then they basically elevated it to a business management meeting, and then they ended up calling it Vision 21. So at the time, obviously, was vision going into the 21st century was what created that terminology.
Yeah.
And it's been our flagship event ever since.
Cool. Thanks for the shout out to my dad. That's neat. I guess I didn't realize that. And to you as well, Bob.
So I mean, it's definitely changed over the years, and I mean, I think if anything, it's only gotten better in the sense of it's not a technical meeting, because there's a lot of technical meetings that are available to the market. It's about managing your business and growing your business, and obviously, there's a lot of content that related to technical trends, but it's not where you're going to come for a hands-on workshop type thing. So it's really about working on your business instead of in your business, if you will. I mean, Bob, you speak to it. I mean, we get really high marks in terms of the value. I mean, we've gotten a lot of new first-time attendees over the last few years, which has been great to see that.
Yeah.
We market it. A lot of people feel like it's for members only. It's not. I mean, anybody can come. We try to market it through LMT and IDT. So anybody's welcome to come. It's the more the merrier. But, certainly the people who go, unless there's a schedule conflict, I mean, pretty much everybody who ends up going once, they come back, which is a good sign. Our goal is just to get more people there so that they can be the beneficiaries of the knowledge that the presenters, provide each year. And we have a wonderful, you were talking about the Public Awareness Committee, Business Management Committee of volunteers who, vet content, topics, speakers, and really try to be on the cutting edge of what our people need to know most about business trends and how to make those things opportunities. And so they do a wonderful job, setting the content each year for the attendees.
Yeah, they do. That was the Vision 21 meeting was actually the first. When I joined Drake, that was the first meeting I went to, and I was blown away back then about the content, and I've seen it just get better and better each year, because as you mentioned, the Business Management Committee really takes a deep dive on the hot topics, trending topics from a business and an industry standpoint, and really wraps it into the Vision 21 meeting every year. And, as we talked about earlier, even the ability to create those connections. And, if you're not an NADL member, going to that meeting to start to really see what the NADL is all about, I think is a great idea, because you're going to come away with a ton of information that come Monday morning you're going to be able to institute. And I know this year, the speaker and the closing speaker that we have, I read his book a while ago, and I'm really excited. I think it's Brian Moran is coming, and I'm excited to see him speak.
Yeah, and I always hear a lot of people say that's their favorite meeting, and they get the most networking and meet the most people, and they get the most jazzed after that meeting. And it's the first large meeting of the year. So we always have really, really good feedback.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones, so I'll be sure that Barb and I will be pushing it as much as we can on the podcast, probably to the point where people will probably ask us to stop talking about it. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. We got a good solid hour of content here, and we didn't really touch upon much of on the list. I mean, we did, but there's still a lot to talk about. So thank you so much.
Well, we appreciate you bringing it to the community. You're doing a great service. And I think y'all have, honestly, you're hitting all the hot topics and, getting a good mix of people to talk about, the things that are driving our market, and you're doing a great service. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Elvis is the brainchild. I just show up. So thank you.
I eventually want to start a yearly trend. Current president and maybe you, Bennett, or maybe Rachel sometime, and just kind of talk about where the NADL is every year. And I think it would be beneficial to the industry to know exactly what we do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A big thanks to Bennett Napier and Bob Savage, and a bigger thanks to Bob for all the time he has given our industry on the board and ultimately as president. Travis Zick, as incoming president, look out. We'll be reaching out to you to come on the podcast and talk about your plans for the coming year. Barb and I can't stress enough how important it is to be involved in any level on our industry. Either a state association, a regional association, or with the national association. Being involved helps everyone, including yourself. So get involved, people.
Actually, I have a NADL meeting coming up this weekend. So I will be sitting down talking about budgets and what we're going to do about the FDA and all of the questions that they're starting to ask. And so, it's pretty serious business, and it's hard work, and it stretches the mind, and you learn a lot about what we're facing and what's coming. And so, I'm looking forward to it. Just a little insight into what we do.
What'd you just send me a picture of? What is this? Is this JDT?
I just sent you a picture of our FDLA Focus magazine. It's a magazine that Florida puts on. It's an excellent magazine. And there's a bunch of pictures of us from the race. And so I just wanted you to see it.
Oh, that's nice. Look at that goofy guy with a costume on. Who is that? Long sleeve shirts are still on sale. For $30, you get a nice quality long sleeve shirt featuring your favorite dental laboratory podcast that shows that you love the industry that you're in. You also get a nice warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that 100% of the profits go towards the Foundation for Dental Laboratory Technology. We'd love to see some shirts at Visions 21, Voices of Dentistry, and Lab Day Chicago, where Barb and I will be. Head over to voicesfromthebench.com to order yours today. Speaking of Voices of Dentistry, this awesome meeting is being held January 25th to the 26th in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Barb and I will be there recording dentists and finding out their thoughts about our industry. Got a question you would like to ask? Send it to info@voicesfromthebench.com. I appreciate it, everybody. Have a good week. We'll see you next Monday.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate the support, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
See ya. Two B's, B&B.